Hello, welcome to my Genius Hour TED Talk presentation. Today I'm going to be talking about my blog for my Genius Hour project in our math class this year. So this is my homepage where you can see my various pages as well as all of my blog posts. And I would like to now take you through a little bit of my project that I've done. So starting with my project proposal, what I was looking at is how can I make math problems that are both applicable to student lives and related to the Ontario curriculum. I wanted to start by looking at research, collecting and making a bank of questions, and then creating my own examples as well, in addition to those banks of questions, was my initial goal. I know that finding resources is one of the main difficulties of teachers and finding things that you can use in your classroom. So I just wanted to try to create something for myself that I would be able to use in my future career. So I started my journey just doing a little bit of research on how we make math applicable to students, looking at authentic assessment and looking at the Ontario curriculum. Looking at breaking knowledge into conceptual and procedural knowledge, and trying to connect this research to my own practice. The next thing that I did was reflect on the low floor, high ceiling problems that we were looking at in one of our classes. I found that these are very interesting questions, but I noticed that there was a bit of a gap in questions being relevant for grades 10 through 12. There's a lot of problems that relate to budgeting taxes, probabilities, rates, volume, speed, and data, but these are not topics that are necessarily covered in grades 9 or 10 through 12. And so I can see why in grade 9 there are a lot of resources available, but 10 through 12 is where it becomes a little bit harder to make these things that are applicable to everyday life. My third hour I spent looking at the 3-act math problems that we were looking at in our class. I found that a lot of these questions were behind a bit of a paywall, which made it difficult to access this resource. And I intend to come back to this 3-act math in order to see how can I connect these directly to the Ontario curriculum. The next thing that I wanted to do was take a deeper look into the Ontario curriculum. So I started with grade 9 as that was where I was doing my practicum placement. So I looked at the different strands. We have mathematical thinking, connection, number, algebra, data, geometry, measurement, and financial literacy. Having looked more deeper into the curriculum, I then decided that I wanted to find some problems that I could connect to my classroom. I decided to implement a problem of the day puzzle for all of my students. Every day my students would come into the class, there would be a problem on the board, and the first thing that we would do would be discuss this problem. A lot of these problems I was able to find from the Rainbow District School Board Spiraling Plan and Thinking Classroom examples. I have all of the examples that I used in this document, but they also appear in my project reflection. Another thing that I was noticing while I was working with my grade 9 students was how many times I use math in my daily life because I'm able to. Things like proportional reasoning, ratios, rates are things that I do without even thinking. And if students are more confident in these topics, they might be able to realize the ways that they are able to use these mathematical concepts in their days. After working my practicum, I reflected on some of the problems of the day that I used. I found that my students were very engaged in these problems, and it was not always the same students who I thought would be engaging. It was not the same students every day, and it was not the same students who I thought, based on their grades or their previous participation in class, would have participated. And I found it was a very interesting activity to do with my classroom. After finding many resources for grade 9, I wanted to take another deeper look into grades 10 through 12. Again, I found that this was very difficult to do, so the first thing I did was ask for help from my peers. And so my next hour was spent collecting and showing resources from some of my other classmates. Hannah showed us an excellent resource last year about triangles. Amel helped me out. Ali helped me out, and also Shauna helped me out. I looked a little bit deeper into the Tap into Teen Minds resource and 3-act math and made some direct connections to the Ontario curriculum as well. And my final product was to create a resource of links separated by strand in order that I and my classmates might be able to use this in the future. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk, and I hope you appreciate my work.